and see if anything grabs anybody.
Okay, that sounds perfect. And
Okay.
I just started the recording, Judy, so this will be on video, and I'll provide that video to the whole class so everyone can hear it.
Okay. So one discrete project, which I think Crystal is going to do herself, and so I don't know if that can extend for other people, is the set of comprehensive plan maps for the town of Roque Bluffs, because we're doing a update to their comprehensive plan right now. And that's a whole series of maps, usually 10 or 11, that starts with location, then is public facilities, transportation network, soils, land cover, water resources, all the critical habitat natural resources, then often transportation on its own. It sometimes get merged with public facilities if it's a tiny little town, which Roque Bluffs is. And then current land use and proposed land use. So, Tora, I'll leave that to you as to whether anybody else in the class would want to be involved in the creation of a full suite of maps like that.
Okay.
So that's one project. Another is I sent, and maybe you can show this map to folks that are sitting there, the St. Croix Waterway, International Waterway Commission has a map that is published that people who run the river all the way from, way up Spednick Lake, the tip top of Washington County into Aroostook County, when they run the river all the way down, this is a map. On one side is the upper portion of the river, on the other side is the lower portion of the river. It shows campsites. It's both sides, so you've got to bring in New Brunswick. It shows where the rapids are, public lands, and so on. So that map was produced in, I'm going to say, 05, somewhere in there, and they want it to be updated. And I thought that this might be a good project for the class because it's the GIS, but it's also that sort of final production project. So that's one. Another is it's pretty mundane, but it's amazing how many times I get asked for just a good set of maps of Washington County. So what I would like to have is one where it's a poster size that is, it's just basic. It's the town boundaries, the roads, the water, the distinction between unorganized territories and organized towns, and that's a nice big poster map. I've been requested from the sheriff's office, I guess, to have it. But that leads me to think that there's a whole suite of basic maps of Washington County that are some poster-sized, some 8.5 by 11 in a quick reference folder, and then some that can be formatted to a JPEG that can then get inserted into a document. So there's formatting issues there, scaling and size issues, and one that shows the labor market areas, one that shows the distinction between organized and unorganized, another that really focuses on private versus public industrial forest land. Well, private industrial forest land and public reserved land that's also used for forestry. So there's a whole suite of maps there. I won't go into all the details, but and I don't know, Tora, you know better than I how much of a challenge this is as a GIS project.
Hang on a second, Judy.
Oh, sorry.
Oh.
You just need to mute your computer. And there you go.
All right. There we go. All right, you're all set now. Thank you.
So, do I go back in my description or just keep going?
You can just keep going.
Okay. So anyway, I don't know how much of a challenge that is from an educational standpoint, but it would be a very useful thing to have so that it's something that I can post on a website, give to people as a PDF, and use to insert into documents and PowerPoints and all that sort of thing. So that's a big sort of grab bag of handy little things that I think would really just be one project.
I have long actually had the idea of doing a Washington County Atlas, which would be most likely a large class project. Before now, I've never really had a client for such a project, but it is the sort of thing that I guess you can't see me no matter what I do. But it is the sort of thing that would make a great class project. That, you know, essentially the way it would work is to have multiple people take on a particular, you know, each person takes on a particular map, and we as a class create a template, and then they adhere to the template and sort of bend the rules of the template in order to get you know, a cohesive design. And I've done that sort of thing before, primarily using sets of comp plan maps for a class. And it's a good way to go. It also could be a multi-semester thing where one class makes the preliminary maps and has essentially what are draft maps, and another class, a follow-up class, which would probably be an advanced projects class or a community applications course, especially if there's a client, that would then take it through the production process. So, you know, finalizing layouts, making multiple versions, so there'd be online JPEG and PDF versions, and as well as a, you know, sort of the book design, so expanding the layout so that maybe even involving a writing class, so you know, there are blurbs, written blurbs about each of the maps and that sort of thing. So that is something that I've had on the back burner for a long time, and we've had plenty to do, but I'm fascinated by that as an option.
Okay. I like the idea. It makes me think that it'd be interesting to have the atlas be the same format as the one from the 1870s and look at the difference.
Yeah.
Might be a way to do it. But apart from that, that is a large project. The maps that I want are actually pretty mundane. It's really just a poster that I've been, you know, I literally was asked to do this about 7 months ago by the sheriff's office and had no time to do it. And I'd actually love to see their faces if I walked in with one in 2 months and say, hey, remember that map you asked me for? But also the idea of having something that I can grab and put into a PowerPoint or into a document. That kind of nicely scaled JPEG that gives context to all sorts of other things. But also can be used to say, you know, these are the labor market areas, these are the subregions, this is, because there's so many different ways that a county-wide map could be themed out to tell a story. No single one is very difficult, but they're very useful to tell a contextual story. So, okay, so that's one. The next, the food mapping, I hadn't even thought of that for this class, but one of the next things that we need to do with the food mapping is, has this group seen the
Grow Washington Heuristic website, but we did not look at the food map.
Okay, so the poster is, it needs to be updated, and just by way of background, that food poster is a GIS map that shows where local food outlets are, and then there's also a border around it that was created by an artist at the Beehive Collective, and as the map is updated, there's a merge that needs to occur to bring the graphical border around the food map. That was the whole intent, is that we would take advantage of that beautiful artistry of the border, but be able to re-merge it as we update the GIS map. So that needs to happen again, because I know for a fact there are at least a half dozen farms that were not on the original food map. So that's a pretty straightforward project, and I don't know the extent to which this group will interact with students from the past, Lisa Ravis or Laura Teisel, because they were very involved in the database behind that map. And I also don't know about money. This is one where I wish I had some money, because one of the students in this class could help with adding things to the map, learning how to merge the graphics with the map. But we still need money to probably pay Lisa, because she's the one that managed the data. Excuse me. And then also for printing, because the printing that we've done now was done on a plotter that I'm literally schlepping to Yarmouth next week because its guts are broken. But also it's only printing on paper. And it fades. So there's a professional printing on good, probably glossy poster stock cost that I don't know how to pay for right now. But that's where I want to get to with it. So that's the food poster. Scott, I was not able to make the main food data consortium conference call on just this past week. Were you on that call?
I was.
Did you guys discuss further the food mapping on that call, or was it other things?
That was pretty much it, and the consensus was that they needed somebody to come and take this course. So that's why I'm here.
A lot of hopes are riding on you, Scott.
I'm surprised. Fortunately, it became pretty exciting to me. But yeah, that's basically it. It's to map food systems, resources, pockets of poverty, pounds per person in poverty, and then the resources available: pantries, distribution centers, farms, retail donations from Hanford, Walmart, and others. Basically just to tell the changing picture of food insecurity around the state that's available, to see how to connect the dots and make information.
Okay, I really didn't hear any of that, and I'm thinking that this is a more detailed conversation we need to have. I've also got a pending funding request in front of the Environmental Funders Network, and they were supposed to meet yesterday, but I just got an email that it was delayed until September 23rd. So I'm thinking this one is obviously a project for Scott and something that we need to meet face-to-face on, because there's a level of detail here that we're ready to jump into that might be, well, difficult for the whole class to listen into, and the sound quality, I really didn't hear a lot of what you just said. So does that sound like?
That's right. Yeah. I think we've got the idea, and we probably do need to talk about it. I think the food mapping stuff. What's important for the class to know in your presence is that there are essentially two things. One is the food map poster, which needs to be updated with new existing data, and that's Washington County only. I've also been doing other food mapping work, which is Maine, the state of Maine entirely, and that is connected with a data consortium, like a group of different organizations that's interested in mapping food resources and food insecurity and so forth. Good Shepherd is part of that, and now Scott is part of that as part of Good Shepherd. We've been collaborating with it, and the two students that Judy's referring to, Laura Teisel and Lisa Travis have been students who've been doing most of the food mapping. There's an online food, a sort of a pilot of an online map that has is a way both to show data but also to collect additional data. We want to update that, and we want to integrate a whole bunch of different data sets. And so ultimately that's what we're hoping Scott will do, but there's a lot of opportunities because there's a lot to be done with regard to food system mapping in the state. And so the list of, and I have a list too somewhere on my computer from our conference call. There's a long list of maps, and some of the first maps we need to make are literally problem set 1 style maps. They're simple maps to make, and they're the first kind of map that we may be able to, in problem set 1, knock out some of those tasks. So, it'd be really cool. Yeah. Anything else to say about food, Judy?
No, I think that's probably good. Well, no, actually, come to think of it, there is a third project there in collaboration with Maine Farmland Trust, and it integrates with the online planning maps, and that is this whole effort to put the interpreted soils up on the web as part of the planning maps, and to identify, well, and as well as land cover, and to identify how much of the land cover mapping needs further analysis or on-site fieldwork to determine whether we truly know if land is hay versus tilled versus blueberry versus whatever else, and then to merge that information with land ownership and work with Maine Farmland Trust on the whole issue of linking farms that are not being used with farmers who want to farm.
So much of that project is actually a spring semester remote sensing class project.
That makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, we'll leave that one for now.
Okay.
Okay, and then I guess the other project is the, I call it sort of taking it on the road with the work that we did last year, which was the online planners maps and the online parcel viewer that's on the Grow Washington Heuristic website. And we created all of that information and that system. Excuse me. And some of the towns know that it's there. They've all been told it's been released, we got an award, we're getting another award.
Yay!
It's great, but are they truly using it? Are they? I know that some of them have looked at it and think, "Oh, that's great," and they've given us feedback. But I know that there are probably the majority who have not used it. Even though they know it's there, they can't find it because it's pretty well buried on that website. So that's something I need to do, is to make the links, make it easier to find. But we want to have a series of workshops with probably a half-dozen towns, bring them into the place that you all are sitting right now of an evening, and develop a syllabus to train them on how to use those online parcel viewers and planners maps, with a couple of things in mind. One is so they know how to use it, they know where it is, and they see the value of the tool. But the other is the whole, approach of beta testing, make it crash. We put a ton of information up there. We know that there are going to be mistakes or errors or things missing, And the only way we're going to find those errors is to have the people who know their towns best try to make it work and find the errors because they know their town so well. And the third is different towns gave us different levels of information. So one town is going to look at this and go, well, this is useful, that's great, wonderful, goodbye. Another town is going to say, why don't you have, ownership information in here? Or why don't you have, I think Calais, I'm not even sure if they have map and lot number. I mean, there are some towns that provided so little information for a variety of reasons that the tool we've created isn't going to be useful to them. And it's only as useful as the data they provide. So if they use it, then we have people from within the community who will go back and say, we want that assessment information there, or we want that ownership information in there in order for this to be useful. So I'm hoping those are the three outcomes of these training sessions. And it's on my to-do list to get those set up for basically, well, what did we say, Tora? October?
I think we said October.
Yeah.
I'm doing comps in mid-October, so after that would be better.
Yeah, agreed. For me too.
And these guys aren't even gonna, start projects. And also we said we would include the storm surge mapping in that training as well, which is a lot of these folks are interested in natural resources, and so that may be very interesting to them as well.
Absolutely, and that might, I don't know how much of a project this is per se, because you guys aren't yet at the the online mapping stage, but being part of the training and helping, I mean, some of these folks who are coming into these classes are quite literally at the stage of, where's the button to turn this thing on? So you guys would definitely help with the training, even if you don't know how to create the online mapping that's already been created. And I imagine that some of you want to get to the point of, being the person behind the works, even if you're not there yet.
Yeah.
So that's as much as I came up with. I know there's more, but that's as much as I came up with. Can you think of others, Tora, for class projects?
I'm sure. Yeah, there are a couple things. Oh, yes. So we still need and want more emergency response mapping. We have a pilot with Millbridge, and we essentially have an unlimited number of towns who would like to have both online and PDF maps that can be printed to support emergency response.
Yes.
And the other thing is cemeteries, which...
Oh, yeah.
Like that.
So we have a zillion cemeteries in all these towns. Some of that may be GPS work, but I think you told me that Millbridge has GPS data from their cemeteries, but it's just a list at this point. So
yeah, I think they have a spreadsheet. I think they have, and I mean, it's either 60 or 80. It's a lot. So it's all the little private plots too. And they've got it on a spreadsheet, and they may even have lat long. So how easy is that? Create a map.
Yep. Yeah, that's has the appeal of being very straightforward. Millbridge would be a good pilot town to do that and get that going, and then that can go on their online maps. And then the other thing, and I actually owe somebody a call about this, is culvert mapping.
Oh.
And we haven't really gotten that. And our poster child for that is also Millbridge's. There's one dude in Millbridge who's all about the mapping. And so they also are trying to be a pilot and have some preliminary data. There's also some wrestling we need to do with some nonprofit organizations that do salmon restoration who we might want to talk to as well. So,
You know, Tora, this argues for, well, a couple of thoughts. One is, I believe what we talked about when we were thinking about the training was that if we brought the assessors and planning boards and clerks into a training, they're going to go, hey, can you map this? I know they will.
yeah.
And that will yield projects for you guys. So that argues for having at least a couple of the trainings with the towns that are, you know, ready to roll sooner than later. Like, I don't want to do a bunch of them because you and I are both overwhelmed right now.
Well, don't forget that we have ongoing, you know, we're running GIS 1 every semester, and many of these folks will already have projects in mind, and we have 17, so we may not really need a lot of projects this semester, and I have a couple others as well from other clients. So the Naval Base Fire Department, for instance, needs a couple of maps, and so, you know, I don't think it's necessary that we generate an infinite number of projects. There's an infinite number.
Good. That was a very good splash of cold water. I'm very glad you said that.
Judy likes to say, and we can do this, and we can do that. It's like a toddler in a candy store, you know, and I'm like, no, you only have 10 cents.
Yeah, okay. Hose me down. Okay. And so what else what do you want to do today, or is it premature just to...
It's premature now, so what I wanted to do is give these guys, and we'll do the same with the on-campus class, give these guys a smattering of the kinds of choices that are available. And since we've actually talked through it, I think this might be it, because I've mentioned the cemeteries, which I've been in touch with them about, culverts, and the naval base map. So those are the tasks that I've had requests for currently, which is really enough. Some of these projects obviously won't get selected by students because you only do projects you're interested in doing in this class. So, so I think that's good for now. So students are going to choose their projects in the second Saturday session, which is in the middle of the semester, and then do the projects over the following months, and finish them in mid-December. One thing that, if somebody's really interested in helping with this training with municipal officials, that might be good to know sooner rather than later, so that we can train you in that process. And that's probably going to be the kind of thing that's better for a student who's local and who can, you know, come and be in the lab physically when we're doing the trainings. But there may be other things that you can help with, like training materials that we can use. That's right.
Do you have a date for your second Saturday session?
We do. We have to talk about that. But it's actually 2 dates, and so yeah, I'll get back to you on that.
Okay. Alrighty.
All
Awesome.
right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Bye, Judy.